Obviously, we all know by now a hurricane is coming our way, and with that come major threats and uncertainties, not just for Harris County, but for the entire region. We're talking about a hurricane over 200 miles across. The next 24 hours are going to be rough for Harris County. That is the takeaway of my remarks today. What we don't know is exactly where and exactly how rough. We know we're going to have wind, we know we're going to have rain that could lead to flooding, and we know we're going to have storm surge. In fact, we already have some storm surge. The fact is the rain and the wind could have impacts anywhere across our county, and we won't know until after the hurricane is gone and after the assessments have been done exactly where the major impacts were. No matter where you are in Harris County and in our region, we need you to prepare, and we need you to be ready for the next 24 hours, particularly the next 12, and then the following 12 in terms of assessments and debris. So we're on the dirty side of the hurricane, the toughest side. Already we're feeling the bands at the edges of the hurricane. The quote-unquote bad time, the worst time for us, will be from midnight tonight to noon tomorrow, as the eye of the hurricane makes its way north, literally right next to Harris County. In terms of the wind will be strong enough to cause tree damage, fence damage, and damage to power infrastructure. We don't expect the wind to be strong enough to deal with the transmission lines again. So it's not as strong a wind as what we had with derecho, where we had roofs blown off houses and trees falling in terms of major infrastructure impacted in that way. That said, it impacts the whole county, the whole region, whereas the derecho followed a particular path in its bands. To the extent that residents prepare for this, we will avoid some of the issues we can control, like flying debris, outside furniture, for example. Everyone across the county is at risk of the coming wind. In terms of the flooding from rain, we'll likely see street flooding. We could see some creek and bayou flooding depending on how much rain we get and how quickly. We'll be watching our gauges closely, and we invite you to keep up with them as well at radyharris.org. One threat we're a little bit nervous about is the wind possibly knocking down some of our gauges. And so if they're not updating, that could be why, but we trust that we will not have that situation or very widespread anyway. In terms of storm surge, our neighbors around Seabrook, Clear Lake, other coastal communities know what I'm talking about. They're seeing impacts. Storm surge will not stop until the wind moves on, because the wind is what is causing the storm surge and pushing that water inland. So we do expect in those areas along the coast some impacts to garages, some impacts to areas underneath elevated homes, but hopefully and most likely nothing more than that. Here's what you need to do. Just know it's going to be wet, it's going to be windy, and it's going to be dangerous. Do not go out between 12 midnight and 12 noon tomorrow. You should be where you're going to be to ride out the storm by 10 p.m. tonight. We can't be absolutely exact with the timing, and we want to make sure that you have your preparations made by then. The storm is a large tropical system, so that's why it'll take those full 12 hours to pass through our entire county. It is simply not safe to be outside between midnight tonight and noon tomorrow. We're all going to be here overnight. The Emergency Operations Center is absolutely full, and we are heeding our own advice, and we'll be working here on your behalf and for your safety. If you are outside during this time, you're risking your life. And not only that, you're risking the lives of first responders. Ideally, they would go out only if somebody has a heart attack, a medical event, something that they can't control in terms of timing. We don't want people having to have first responders put themselves in danger simply because they didn't heed the advice to stay indoors while the hurricane passes. So please help us with that. Check on your neighbors. Don't create a situation where there's where there will be that kind of an emergency if you can avoid it. And as always, don't call 911 unless you're calling about a life-threatening emergency. This is obviously not new to anybody in terms of what to do, but you have a couple hours here to do your final preparations, cleaning up your yard, making sure debris is put away, anything that could fly off, securing furniture outdoors, making sure you have what you need to get through the next 12 hours, and possibly longer than that if we see power outages. The threat on the 12 hours is going to be the major threat, but after that, as we move into initial recovery, will also be tough. During the wind, because it's not going to be as strong as the derecho, you just need to stay inside. We don't need people to hunker down in safe areas within the building, but just be inside. Charge your phones right now before that hits. Make sure you have water. It's possible that some of the generators in the water treatment plants could go down, that they could lose power, backup generator doesn't work, in which case there would be boiled water notices, in which case you wouldn't have drinking water. So we're not expecting it, but we've had it happen before. Fill the tubs, as I said, charge the phones, fuel the cars in case you lose power. And so just be prepared for the worst and the various contingencies. In terms of the actual storm, you can access our alerts, Ready Harriet alerts, by texting Gulf 2024 to 888-777. So you'll receive alerts from the Office of Emergency Management about what's going on. The best thing you can do is watch the news, stay tuned to the news, to sources of information, and just decide that by 10 p.m. tonight, you're going to be in a safe place that you're not going to leave. It's ultimately your responsibility to take care of yourself and to take care of your family. Last time we had a hurricane was Hurricane Nicholas in 2021, and it was a much weaker storm than what we expect Beryl to be. So by definition, a hurricane is dangerous, and no two hurricanes are alike. So I, for one, have been through Ike. Obviously, so many people were here through Harvey. There was Nicholas. Some folks might remember Allison. They've all been different. But what we do know is we've gotten through them, so we can get through one afterwards. As I said, this is much more widespread. And so unlike the derecho, unlike some of the rain events we've had that are more localized, this has the potential to affect the whole county and region from north to south, from east to west. In terms of what we're doing, I signed a disaster declaration for Harris County. The reason I did that is because it helps us put protective measures in place so we can get recovery efforts and debris management as quickly as possible post-landfall. We're coordinating with all of our state and local partners. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is acting governor, and he has included Harris County in his list of state disaster declarations. They are standing by at the state, ready to assist with anything Harris County needs. As always, I've been in contact with Chief Nim Kidd of the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and we're very grateful for the states leaning forward and reaching out, not just to us, but the various communities that are impacted. They have pre-staged assets, they have representatives at our Emergency Operations Center, and we're coordinating with them, with first responders, with the various precincts, the cities, the hospitals, you name it. Of course, law enforcement. We're currently activated to level 1 maximum readiness. This is the highest level of readiness that we can be in, and again, that will signal how important it is to be home by 10 or where you're going to spend the night and stay there until around noon tomorrow. We are closing all county buildings tomorrow, from the courts to the tax office to everything in between. We are just making sure that our employees and members of the public are safe. So our employees are going to be working from home if they can, and they'll receive instructions on how to do that. TxDOT has deployed their employees to work 24 hours a day until this weather event is over, in shifts, obviously. They're ready to assist in whatever is needed, and they've always been wonderful partners. Since we're expecting widespread power outages potentially. CenterPoint, of course, is also monitoring the storm. So they have approximately 2,500 mutual assistant crews on standby that have moved closer to our region, of course, far enough away from the danger of the hurricane, and are ready to move in immediately after the danger passes. So the first stage after the storm is going to be assessment. It could take them hours if it's not too bad. It could take them a day like it did with the derecho if it's very widespread. After the derecho, or during the derecho, the outage tracker wasn't working, right, when folks had lost power. And I remember it was very frustrating for folks, and so I asked that question on behalf of the community, what's up with the outage tracker? So they're working on it. Unfortunately, it's not something that they can bring back online quickly. And so it's going to come online, but not soon, certainly not for this storm. But there is another option for folks that about half the CenterPoint customers have already signed up for. So if you haven't, this is what we all recommend you do, is to sign up for the power alert system that they have. So basically you sign up, you decide if you want text or phone call or an email, and you will get an alert from CenterPoint saying crews are going to be arriving at this time, once they've assigned them an approximate idea of how long it's going to take once they're there, and then once it's done, they'll tell you, if your power's not back on by now because we fixed it, call CenterPoint. So you can sign up for that by just searching Power Alert Service on a search engine, and CenterPoint, also centerpointenergy.com/Power Alert Service, or via readyharris.org. So to conclude, this is what we all plan for as a region. We have a culture of preparedness. It comes with living here. It's part and parcel. We have a great community. We have a strong economy. We have diversity. We have culture. We have delicious food. And we have hurricanes and tropical storms. So it just comes with living where we're living. We'll get through it. We absolutely need your help tonight to keep everybody safe. Let me repeat briefly in Spanish, and then I'll pass it on to Paul Locke from CenterPoint, and then to Chief Christensen, who will give some information about how to stay safe immediately after the storm passes, the hurricane. Todos sabemos que viene un huracán, y con eso hay amenazas e incertidumbres, no solamente para el condado Harris, sino también para toda nuestra región. El huracán mide más de 200 millas de un extremo al otro extremo. Entonces, las próximas 24 horas, especialmente las 12 horas que vienen, de la medianoche al mediodía mañana, van a ser muy difíciles para el condado Harris. Lo que no sabemos es exactamente qué parte del condado, exactamente de qué manera, pero sí sabemos que van a ser difíciles. Entonces, sabemos que vamos a tener vientos, sabemos que vamos a tener lluvia, sabemos que va a haber mareada ciclónica. Lo que no sabemos es dónde va a haber el impacto de la lluvia y del viento, y obviamente la lluvia puede causar inundaciones. Entonces necesitamos que todo el mundo se prepare. Estamos en el área del huracán que es el más fuerte, el más peligroso, porque el huracán viene girando de tal manera que nos impacta a nosotros más. Ya estamos sintiendo los impactos de las partes externas del huracán, y el momento más difícil, lo que es el tiempo discreto, más difícil para nosotros aquí en el condado Harris, como mencioné, va a ser de medianoche a mediodía mañana, porque durante ese tiempo va a estar pasando el huracán hacia el norte, de sur a norte, y va a estar básicamente al lado del condado Harris. El ojo del huracán va a estar básicamente a la izquierda del condado Harris, al oeste, pero todo el resto del huracán pues nos va a pegar. Entonces, sabemos que bastantes personas vieron impactos durante el derecho con esos vientos tan fuertes. Lo malo es que ese evento tuvo vientos mucho más fuertes de lo que veremos hoy. Entonces, bueno, para nosotros hoy día es mejor. La cosa es que el derecho casi que siguió una línea recta. Este huracán va a impactar a todo el condado, inclusive toda la región. Entonces, podríamos ver vientos en muchísimas partes, no tan fuertes como lo que se vio durante el derecho. Entonces, va a haber de repente daño a árboles, daño a cercas en su propiedad, daño a la infraestructura eléctrica, pero no a la torre de transmisión. Recordarán que durante el derecho se cayeron un par de esas torres grandes de transmisión, y fue un problema muy serio para nosotros en cuanto a la electricidad, la luz. Entonces, no se espera que vaya eso a volver a suceder, pero sí lo más seguro es que muchas personas se les vaya la luz porque caigan, bueno, más bien otros postes de luz más pequeños, pero que igual tienen impacto. En cuanto a inundaciones causadas por la lluvia, lo más seguro es que veamos inundaciones en las calles. Puede que hayan inundaciones en los bayous, dependiendo de cuánta lluvia caiga y qué tan rápido. En readyhairs.org puede tener acceso a los varios sensores que tenemos a lo largo de los bayous, buscar el suyo y ver cuál es la profundidad, la altura del agua. Y ahí lo puede ir viendo subir. Es posible que el viento dañe esos sensores, entonces tengan eso en mente. En cuanto a la marejada ciclónica, ya nuestros vecinos en Seabrook, en Clear Lake, alrededor de la costa están viendo impactos, entonces esa mareada ciclónica no va a parar hasta que pase el huracán, porque esos vientos son los que empujan el agua hacia nuestro condado y hacia esas áreas de la costa. Lo más seguro es que se vea impacto para garajes, para lo que queda debajo de hogares que han sido elevados. Y eso es en cuanto a esa parte. ¿Qué necesitamos que haga? Va a llover, van a haber vientos fuertes, no salga de 10 p.m. esta noche al mediodía mañana. Debe estar hoy día a las 10 de la noche en donde se planea quedar la noche. Es muy peligroso estar fuera entre las 10 y el mediodía mañana. No es seguro. Está poniendo en riesgo su vida. Y no solamente está poniendo en riesgo su vida, está poniendo en riesgo la vida de nuestros primeros respondedores. Si alguien tiene una emergencia de salud, un ataque al corazón, uno no puede decir cuándo sucede eso. Bueno, saldrán los socorristas a ayudar, aunque sea riesgo para su propia supervivencia. Pero el salir usted solo porque quiere ver el huracán o quiere estar por fuera es algo que podemos prevenir, es una catástrofe que podemos prevenir, entonces por favor no lo haga. Obviamente tiene un par de horas de aquí a las 10, una horita y media para finalizar preparaciones, limpiar las yardas, asegurar cualquier escombro, meterlo a la casa para que no se vuele, cargar los celulares, ponerle gasolina al carro por si se va la luz. Tener agua, igual es posible que se vaya el agua si es que algunas de las plantas de tratamiento de agua pierden electricidad, es posible que no haya agua en cuanto a que no sea seguro tomar el agua, que ya no sea potable. Fundamentalmente es responsabilidad de todos, cuidarse a usted y cuidar a su familia. Otra cosa que puede hacer, como siempre, ver las noticias, estar muy pendiente de eso. Y también se puede registrar, puede mandar un mensaje a Gulf, G-U-L-F, Gulf 2024, y que diga eso al número 888-777. Entonces escríbale Gulf 2024 al 888-777 y así va a formar parte de nuestras alertas de mensajes aquí en el Departamento de Manejo de Emergencias. Los huracanes, por definición, son peligrosos. Lastimosamente no tenemos un modelo definitivo para poder decir esto es lo que va a suceder definitivamente. El último huracán que tuvimos fue el huracán Nicolás en 2021. De repente no lo recuerdan porque los impactos fueron mucho menos severos, fue bastante leves. Antes de eso, obviamente hemos tenido Allison, Ike, Harvey y hay bastantes miembros de la comunidad que han vivido aquí durante esos huracanes. Lo bueno es que hemos hecho esto antes y lo podemos hacer nuevamente. ¿Qué estamos haciendo aquí en la Oficina de Manejo de Emergencias? Está llena, ahí arriba está todo el mundo, desde los socorristas hasta representantes de la ciudad, de los precintos, la Cruz Roja, policía, el Estado, todos. Vamos a estar trabajando toda la noche, toda mañana, para protegerlos a ustedes, para estar listos para responder y para hacer todo lo posible. Estamos coordinando con el Estado. El vicegobernador Dan Patrick está actuando ahorita como gobernador porque el gobernador está fuera del país por temas de trabajo y nos está ayudando muy bien con todo lo que necesitamos. Tienen inclusive ya recursos cerca de las regiones que van a ser impactadas para poder ayudar en cuanto se necesite ayuda. Nuestra oficina está activada a nivel 1. El nivel 1 es preparación máxima y eso también refleja la seriedad de esta amenaza que viene. En cuanto al condado, bien sea la oficina de impuestos o las cortes y todas las oficinas del condado van a estar cerradas. Los empleados van a trabajar de la casa hasta donde sea posible. Texto, que se encarga de las carreteras, también está muy involucrado, muy preparados para poder ayudarnos con cualquier impacto a nuestras vías. Como lo más posible es que hayan apagones, Centerpoint está monitoreando también el huracán. Tienen gente de asistencia mutua, equipos que están cerca pero fuera de las áreas del huracán para ayudarnos a restaurar la electricidad si es que se va la luz. Como recordarán por el derecho, si no hay muchos impactos, se demoran un par de horas en hacer la evaluación. Si hay muchos impactos, se les irá un día completo. Durante el derecho no estaba funcionando el sistema por internet donde podía ver dónde habían apagones. Lastimosamente no lo han podido restaurar, están trabajando en eso, pero se tarda. Entonces, por ahora, lo que pueden hacer es registrarse para el sistema de alertas de Centerpoint. Entonces, si se registra para eso, va a recibir bien sea un texto, una llamada, un email, usted decide, donde le van a avisar, ok, ya vienen los equipos para restaurar la electricidad, luego le dirán cuándo acabaron, cuánto se van a tardar, todo eso. La mitad de los clientes de Centerpoint ya se ha registrado, entonces si usted no se ha registrado, los invitamos todos a que hagan eso, porque los va a ayudar con conveniencia, obvio. Estamos apoyando porque sabemos que todo el mundo tiene a Centerpoint. Y eso lo puede hacer por internet en readyharris.org, ve también dónde registrarse, o puede visitar centerpointenergy.com/Power Alert Service. Para concluir, esto es para lo que planeamos como región. Tenemos una cultura de preparación, hemos vivido esto. Somos una región increíble, muchas oportunidades de trabajo, buen sitio para vivir, diversidad, comida, de todo. Pero también nos impactan los huracanes, nos impacta este clima, especialmente ahorita en estos meses. Entonces, es parte de vivir aquí y vamos a pasar esto, pero necesitamos su ayuda. Okay, I will leave it there and pass it on to Paul Locke from Centerpoint.
Thank you, Judge. Centerpoint's prepared and ready to go for the event tomorrow. As the judge said, once the storm passes through, we will go through an assessment phase, and once we assess, we'll get out and restore power to priority buildings like hospitals, water facilities, police departments, fire departments, and then we'll go focus on the majority of customers that we can get back on as quickly as possible. We do have 2,500 mutual assistance crews on standby to come and help us, and after the assessment phase, if we determine we need more, we'll get more crews. We had over 4,000 for the last weather event in May. If you see a down power line, please walk away. And if you smell natural gas in your house, please go outside and call Centerpoint at 713-207-2222. That's all I have. I'll turn it over to Chief Christensen.
Good evening, Laurie Christensen, your Harris County Fire Marshal. We're talking about preparedness prior to the storm. I want to talk for a minute about the preparedness for after the storm. We know that you're setting up your generators, people are getting the propane and their gasoline ready. We want to remind you that generators do produce carbon monoxide. And last year we had over 430 people die from carbon monoxide poisoning. I want to remind you, do not run them in your garages. You want to run them 10 to 20 feet away from the house. You don't want it anywhere near your eaves. Remember, some of you may be turning these on while it's